Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cinematic Trinity, where we talk movies, games and TV shows. And this week we're doing a multimedia joint episode as we talk about Astrobot and Mr. McMahon. Let's get into it. So yes, discussing two very different things.
Literally could not be more different.
I guess the connecting factor is both bits of media have a unique cast of characters in them. So
what are you on about?
I have my point. We'll start off.
I mean, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
But that's a bit of a stretch.
That's the one connecting feature for me.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with Astrobot. So yeah, Tulip. You don't really do many video game reviews.
I don't do many. No, this is not my forte, so to speak.
You've actually played this game.
I have, and I've actually played the others as well, if you remember.
Yes. So Astrobot is a newer PlayStation icon. He's had a new game come out this year. He had like a VR adventure I played, really good. And then he was there on like the PS5 tech demo, Astro's Playroom, which is really good experience. Like, Astrobot as a character is very fun. Like, he's very innocent. You know, he's not like Nathan Drake or Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us. He's a very wholesome character. So
although it's not like there's a plot to follow, I don't think.
Well,
it's just light-hearted fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the plot of the game really is, you're this robot, Astrobot, and you pilot a PlayStation 5 ship, basically. Like, this game is...
Basically, Astrobot lives inside... Is it the controller or the PlayStation altogether?
Well, it's like a ship. The PS5's a ship.
Yeah, and he lives in there, and all his little buddies, are there, making it work, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's the theme. So he's flying in this ship, and then all the other bots kind of get scattered across the universe.
An alien breaks apart the PlayStation 5 and all the components and robots get spread across the universe. So it's up to you, Astrobot, to go find your friends.
Yeah.
So that's basically the plot, really, is you go through level to level, you fight bosses at the end of each, but there's like...
And it's a platformer,
it's a platformer. So there's 4 or 5 different levels beforehand you have to beat, and overall, very, very good game. Really enjoyed it.
Very enjoyable, isn't it? I think it's nice to... It's not as a sort of, somebody who's not playing it. Obviously, I did try it a little bit, but you were playing it and I was kind of just there.
Yeah.
It was nice to have you playing something that wasn't like, oh, for God's sake, oh, God, it's so stressful. Oh, God, I'm really annoyed as I keep failing this. It's not really like that. It's very easy, but not too easy. Some bits are difficult, but it's not. It's just that perfect in between of casual gaming, and I think because he obviously is essentially a mascot now for PlayStation, I think it's very well done in that sense that no matter what part of the PlayStation story you're in, whether you are the sort of the AAA games, like, which is kind of think your space, the AAA story games is where you mainly operate, to the people who like, the open world games, to the people who like the fighting games. I think everybody can kind of come together and play this and they'll still like get some enjoyment out of it, I think.
As you go through these levels and collect like your fellow bots who've been lost, there are special bots which are references to previous PlayStation games. So there's a lot to love if you've played like from the PS1 onwards, basically. But you've got your notable characters. You've got like Crash Bandicoots in this, Nathan Drake, Kratos, Aloy from Horizon. They're all like here, but there's some obscure ones as well that you really have to do your research into, like look at, like the Shadow of the Colossus people, there's Eco, like that whole trilogy of games. So it's just really interesting, like a who's who when you collect them. And it's like the Last of Us characters for me. I really loved that level because it was like, oh, it's a clicker, oh, it's Ellie, it's Joel. That felt really good collecting them. But yeah, like they go back to like your central island as well, and you can get props for them to like interact with. So again, it's just very wholesome. Like you can see your favorite characters do this and that while you explore the map. So I think just really, really cool, and just even if you don't love PlayStation, I still think it's wholesome enough to enjoy.
It's a good
the
enough
game.
like as a platformer game, which is essentially like, you know, Crash Bandicoot or something like that, although it's not as difficult in any way, shape or form as Crash Bandicoot, because that was very difficult, you know, and I did not get on with that at all. This is a lot easier, but as I say, not just like boring in the way that it's easy, but I think the structure and the design of the levels and everything like that, and the look of the game as well, like it's all top notch. And I almost think it's a shame because it makes such good use of the system, and particularly the controller. You know, that's essentially what it was for the, not this game, but the game before, which was kind of like Astro's Playroom, which was like a free built-in demo to the PlayStation 5 when it was released to showcase the new, what's it called? DualSense controller. And I think it's just such a shame that that controller isn't really used to its full potential, I think.
In like other games.
Yeah, in other games, not in this game, in other games, because you do see its full potential in this game with all the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers, and particularly the feedback, you know, it's not, because with a lot of games, the feedback will just be on the control, like the vibration of the controller, whereas this is a lot more, you know,
like his footsteps and stuff like that, like the different surfaces Astro goes on, you like feel it in the controller. And you know, like even like the, I just said touchpad you don't get as much, but yeah, like not many PS5 games use it that much. You'll get like the adaptive triggers, you know, when you squeeze it down if you're firing, and like Resident Evil or like Returnal, it's tough, and you do get that in this game. But otherwise, like even just like the speakers on the controller got a lot more, like I had to turn it down at points because I was like, especially like if, you know, I think you were doing stuff, I turned it down so you can get on or whatever, and it'd just be the controller going and just like, oh god, please.
It's a bit annoying,
but
good from the sense of the,
no, it really
the
like
technology.
Validates your DualSense like experience, like purchase kind of thing, which is like,
and as I say, it's a shame that it's not, you know, I mean, it probably does get the credit it deserves, but also at the same time,
not on full display all the time.
With some of the other games. But I suppose, you know, that's down to the individual developers. They might not have the time or the technology to be able to put all those features into their game. You know, that's not their main focus. But I do think that it is a shame.
But like, there's really no faults with it. Like, I'd even say, like, you know, you said the platforming, it's not too easy, it's not too hard. There are like challenge levels here as well, so if you do want to push yourself, and like that's when I was getting a bit like frustrated with it, like again, not in like a bad way, but it was just, you know, they are challenging, they're meant to test you, especially like the last one to get like the final robot is like that is hard. You're only gonna be doing it for like a couple of minutes, but like it feels so long doing it. It's a real test of like your jumping and timing and stuff like that. It's all really cool, and you get some like unique levels too, where like at the end when you defeat the bosses, which as a side, the bosses are really cool in the game as well, like you fight, they are like carried over from the original, like the previous Astrobot games, which I thought was interesting, like the monkey and the octopus and like the birds, they're all from previous games. But yeah, they're all like really cool, like they're fun, they have their own mechanics, and they're really good at using like the abilities you got from like previous levels, like you get the bulldog which boosts you like a rocket.
Like
that
the
stuff's really cool.
Abilities.
Yeah,
they are pretty cool.
And like they're spread out really well. Like they don't get used too much. Like you get the bulldog one. There's like the chicken one, which makes you fly.
I did the one with the ball.
Yeah.
The little become a ball.
Yeah,
and
the frog.
The monkey.
The monkey. Yeah. That was in Astro's Playroom, but
that was in this one as well. Wasn't it?
Yeah. But it's carried over. That was really cool. But yeah, like it's honestly like you do these bosses, you get like an iconic PlayStation character. They're all from like the newer generations, like Aloy, Kratos, Nathan Drake, and you do a level where you play as like them and you get their abilities. So like Nathan Drake's his gun, Kratos is probably the best. You get like his Leviathan axe, and there's like you get the soundtracks carried over but like rejigged on the Astrobot, because that's like another point. Too many points to like praise. The music is so good.
It is good.
Like it's again, it's just charming. It's just very like, you know, it can get stuck in your head kind of thing. Like you know, even like the menu music and stuff, like going between the different planets, like the do like that.
It really that music more than any of the others really does remind me of Super Mario Galaxy.
Which
Just
people have compared it to,
particular
yeah.
music,
Yeah.
But that's, it's different, isn't
No,
it? It's
no,
on
it's-
a completely different console as well. Like, you can have
All
something
platformers can,
similar.
like, they'll take inspiration.
A platformer's
and...
platformer, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
There's only so much you can do.
No, exactly, yeah. And, like, I think the game just there's so much variety here. Like, no levels are really repeated twice as well. Like, they're all... There's, like, I don't even know how many there's going to be. There's got to be, like, 50 plus levels.
Yeah.
Are all really cool. And, like, the final, like, section of the game, like, again, that's just a PlayStation love letter because you're all, like, piloting PS2s, PS1s, PS3s.
Yeah.
It's all so cool. And, like, just, fan service to, like, the highest degree, but... You're just sat there and you're just taking it and being like, I kept saying
enjoying
like,
it.
yeah, well, I kept saying at points, this is just too damn wholesome. Like this
And
game,
we
I
did
could
get
not.
bamboozled by it at the end, didn't we?
Yeah, the bamboozled. You mean what? Like invested? You mean in the
No, we got bamboozled.
bamboozled? Elaborate. How do we get bamboozled?
When at the end, or am I dreaming this?
When
at the end,
Astrobot
you think that
dies.
Astrobot
Yeah,
dies,
yeah.
but no, he comes and they start to roll the credits, and we were like, "What? What's going on here?"
Right,
What?
yeah.
What? And then he just randomly comes. He just
But you like
comes back.
assemble him back, don't you? Again, it's all the controllers and crap like that.
But that bamboozled us because we were both like, "What? What's going on
Yeah.
here? What's going to happen now?"
No, and then
that was funny.
Then you bring him back, and it goes through to like the proper credits, which is really cool because that's where you like shoot apart and you get coins. It's like that is honestly
that
the
is
best
brilliant.
credits in a video
Yeah.
game I've ever seen because
Yeah.
you just play through it. Like that's the thing. The names pop up, you can destroy them, get coins to like spend in the game and stuff like that. And there's still the platforming, there's still the different gadgets you can use. It's all just it's
Do you ever
just too
think when
damn
you're
good.
like watching credits and the credits themselves are really good and like maybe like the film or whatever you've been watching and you just think, oh, these people must be like so cool. Like I wonder
Yeah,
what they're
yeah,
like
yeah,
in
yeah.
real life. Like it really made me think like, oh, I wonder what this person's
wanna go
like.
to the studio.
I want to like hear about what they've got to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
and
yeah.
tell their story and stuff. Yeah.
So honestly, yeah, just too damn wholesome. Like even that the credits, I was like, oh come on, you didn't need to do this game. Like normally credits like either you can't skip them or you have to wait like 20 minutes and then I can play the game. But no, it's like here it is, I can play it through and it's done in 5 minutes. But all these people get the credit that they deserve for making such a brilliant game.
Yeah. Funny story about credits. Do you remember this was years ago, like over
Right.
3 years ago, it must be 4 years ago now because we were living in a different house, and you would finish playing a game. I think it was during COVID. I can't remember what game it was.
Is this Shadow of the Colossus? And
Yeah,
I told you
and you said, "Oh, can you just like I've got to go to work," but you were working in the afternoon at that point, I think,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
first thing in the morning. Although you would have done if you could. You were like, "Oh, can you just keep an eye on these credits and then just like turn the PlayStation off when it's
Yes.
finished?" And these credits were going on for so long and they just kept going, and then the credits finished and it almost turned into like a little bit of a cutscene. So I kind of sat through the cutscene and then more credits kept rolling and I was like, what on earth is going on here? Like, why won't these credits finish? But you said that it was on a loop essentially, and I had to like press something to get out of it. It just looped around the credits. I was like, why is it doing this? And that was I was literally sat there for about half an hour watching these credits.
Assassin's Creed are the worst games to like finish and then like the credits are unskippable. Like they're just god awful experiences to sit through. But I think to cap off on Astrobot, if I was to bring our scale up here, would you be able to give it a score?
I don't know. I don't think that I would be able to give it a score, but I do think that it's very, very
You'd
good.
recommend it still?
Yeah. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not harmful in any way. It's not offensive. It's just good quality fun.
For all the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, if this was, to give my point on it, I would say this would fall into masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10 game. Honestly, I can't fault it for anything. It's just too damn, solid.
Stop
it's
saying damn.
too damn.
What's wrong with you?
Well, as I said, I literally, as I said, I just kept going through it thinking this game's too.
You did every time
damn
you were
wholesome.
playing it. You're like, oh god, it's just too wholesome. And it's too wholesome. Like, I don't think you've ever really used that word.
Clearly, a game's
in
not
any
made me feel
context.
that way.
Games just stress you out.
Well,
How long did it take you to get the platinum?
I played it for 20 hours, I think.
There you go, people. If you want to get the platinum, it's 20 hours of your life gone.
Well, it could be done in less than that. I was just enjoying the experience.
You were taking your time. You weren't
Yeah, plus
rushing.
you know, by the time you've gone around that like opening area and like said hi to each bot and crap like that, like really like, oh, it's this character, oh, it's this character, you know, you could probably waste loads of time doing that, you know, in this game.
Maybe you should try and do a speedrun of it, because I bet that's what people will be out there thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna, or they've probably already done it.
Yeah, people have definitely already done it,
yeah. I wonder what the shortest time is.
Who knows, we'll have to Google that. I'm
Google
not putting it on the
later.
screen.
Yeah.
But there you go, that was Astrobot, a masterpiece. So let's move on to our next media presentation, Mr. McMahon. There you go, quick transition there. So we're here in our wrestling commentator get-up. So here we are talking about Mr. McMahon. Mr. McMahon or Mr. McMahon? Because it's like
they say it McMahon, but it's spelled McMahon.
Yeah, so the Netflix, it's brand new documentary series following following Vince McMahon as he basically built the WWE, and they filmed it in the prior to the allegations and stuff coming out against him for sexual misconduct and like trafficking and stuff like that.
Why does every like good story end with actually
Well, I mean, is this still like a good story? I mean, as a documentary,
brilliant documentary,
yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, very very interesting.
Yeah.
And also very well put together, because some documentaries you're watching it and you're just like, oh my God, can you just get on with it, please? Like, I want to find out whether he was guilty or whatever. Although it's not about the misconduct. It's not about any of the allegations. As I say, this was probably like in the works before. I mean, it's funny because there was talks in the documentary about the fact that Netflix and WWE were kind of like making a deal. Like, I wonder if this was all part of it. Like, they were trying to do a documentary about the WWE, and then they get the WWE on Netflix. But I don't know.
It is pretty much like, if that, like, the allegations and stuff wasn't tied into it, like, it would have just been a documentary about Vince McMahon and like how he built the WWE. It's not really until the final episode that they have to tie it back in with the allegations.
And say, oh, by the way, this all kicked off after filming. Like, we have to talk about this kind of thing. So in a way, they almost could do a whole other documentary now, like a series 2. Like when we watched The Jinx, it was a part 1, the whole series, and then a part 2, another whole series. So it almost could be another series about the allegations and what's happening now with it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, it's all still under investigation. So I think until that's done.
I bet they're already on it though. That somebody is thinking about this somewhere. But brilliant documentary, very very interesting, and honestly, it just brought back a lot of happy memories for me. Talking about the WWE. Yeah. Me and my brother used to watch that all the time, like loads. We used to watch it really regularly. So it did, like, just hearing all the different names and that cropped up and stuff like that. It was really really interesting, and I do think that the whole premise of wrestling and just this story is very interesting anyway, and I don't really think that there's anything like it. It's such a unique entertainment business, sport very loosely in terms of a sport, because it's not really a sport, it's definitely entertainment, and they talk a lot about the fact that a lot of it is scripted, and whoever gets the championship is just who's popular and who's bringing the most to the business and stuff like that. But really, it's like a genius business model, because you can do exactly what the audience want, and when you're not sure what the audience want, there was talk about a match between The Rock and Hulk Hogan at one point, and they were like, we went into the ring and we had this kind of script, but then the audience was kind of like responding a different way, so we went maybe a different way. Like, it didn't necessarily change the outcome of the match, but the whole sort of script and everything that kind of happened and the way that we positioned everything was just like on the fly. So it's really just it's just a performer, and they keep saying like performers and talent rather than athletes, stuff like that. So I just think all that was really really interesting to watch and to just learn a bit more about, having watched it when I was younger, and I didn't know what was going on. Like, I never really gave it a second thought, about the business model behind it or anything like that. Who cares when you're young? But looking back on it now, I just think, like, what genius, I mean, a lot of it is, and again, they talk about this, like, at the time, it was fine and they could get away with
some of the
things
storylines and
that you maybe couldn't get away. Well, you couldn't get away with now. Let's be honest. But again, it's like it's a reflection of what times were happening and what times were like at any particular stage. Like if you went back and watched, you know, one of the matches or the Monday night, whatever, Raw, then you'd be able to sort of get a reflection of what things were like at that time and what was going on in the news, because they always like followed the trends. Like and he says, you know, we didn't set any trends, we just followed like what was going on. And I just think, you know, that it clearly worked, because you know it's this absolutely massive business now, and it was nice to hear that it's still going strong, you know, even after everything that's happened. You know, it's obviously owned by a different company now, and it is, you know, run differently. It's obviously Vince isn't there anymore after all the allegations, and rightly so. So it's nice to know that it's still going. You know, makes me want to watch it.
Does it really though?
Yeah, it does. I've got nothing better to do.
I think it's just very interesting behind the scenes look, and you know, it is like he was a genius in his way, like Vince McMahon, like the way he, you know, took the company from his dad and like what he did like with Hulk Hogan and like stuff like that, and just how, you know, when a star leaves or like goes to another company, what you do and just find a new star, and like how he's creating like scenarios and stuff like that to drive up interest was just really interesting. And like because in terms of my exposure to wrestling, like I don't even know what you would have watched it on back in the day, but like Sky or something. I didn't have that. So I think it was the video games. Like one of my mates in school was really into it at the time, so we like, you know, introduced like the video game and stuff like that. So that's all I really knew. And obviously, you know, like John Cena and stuff growing up, like you know the names and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's really just really interesting just seeing like these wrestlers as well, just talking like out of character, like The Undertaker and like Triple H. Like Triple H, I had no idea is like so involved in like the corporate side of things now. Like he pretty much runs the company with Vince McMahon's daughter Stephanie.
So married.
Yeah. And that like whole storyline of like them getting married for the sake of the show, but they actually did like fall in love kind of thing, and it was like Vince pushing that kind of thing. It's just like so his like presence in the company and like all the, because I think as well like how businessy it was, like it was so interesting, like how, like, you know, listening to him do the interviews and stuff, and it was just like, well, it's good for the business at the time. And when he says like, if I've got my personal issues, I don't let it interfere with business. Like business is business. Yeah. And that's why it'd be like this person needs to not be champion anymore. It needs to be this new person because it's good for the business. And it's all like the politics of like, you need to throw in the game, you need to lose this match, or like they're going to try and rig it so somebody wins. Like it is honestly so... It's
really interesting.
Just seeing like the inner workings of this company, and just like Vince McMahon as this force behind it was really cool. And like, you know, seeing like, you forget as well like how like Hulk Hogan, I like didn't realize how much of a big impact he had like on wrestling in terms of like being a superstar and stuff like that. And like, you know, just it all comes back with just him being like, oh, you're ready for this, brother? We're gonna do a bit of wrestling. Because that's the only person I could do an impression of. Because Vince McMahon, like, when they're interviewing him, like, in present day, like, his voice is so...
We had to watch it with subtitles, didn't we? Because his voice is so croaky. Like, I don't think I can make my voice
I can do it, How did it... See, I go like too...
Yeah, you go too much. It's like a soft growl.
It's definitely a voice you get from just all the shouting he did. Where it's like, my name isn't Vince, it's Mr. McMahon. You know, that kind of goes into Hulk Hogan there a little bit. But like, that's all he is. It's like, I'm the head of WWE. That's, you know, I don't know I could do a wrestling voice like that, but
no, I can't really.
That is probably shots the microphone to hell doing those impressions. So I apologise, people at home.
I can't imagine you like getting in the ring and being
oh,
let's go, and you know, I'm gonna kill you, you know, whatever. Like I can't imagine you doing
but like
that.
You know, just the showmanship side, stuff like that's really cool. To like, you know, how different they are like off screen, and like, you know, his son, stuff like Vince McMahon's son, he's like not like as committed to it, but he will like wrestle and they will like get involved. Like that episode where it's the whole like family getting brought into it, because obviously Vince McMahon's been there like this whole time, but then he brings his daughter Stephanie and his son, I've forgotten his name.
Shane.
Yeah, brings him in, and like even his wife, Linda, who's like not hugely big, and she's not a good actress. So like the whole storyline where he's having like this affair with one of the other wrestlers, and like they've like poisoned his wife, so she's there in like a wheelchair, and then they have like the WrestleMania, and then she gets up in the wheelchair and like beats him up, and it's just like the most stupid things.
It's stupid, but it's brilliant, and I just think, imagine being a young 20-year-old man maybe at that time. Like, I don't know whether it's the healthiest thing for people to be watching, but people said that about things like Towie and stuff, when I was watching when I was younger, and all the reality shows, and I don't think that's messed me up in any way, shape or form, or given me unrealistic expectations as to life. So I hope that it's the same for all these men that were watching it growing up. But again, it's just a sign of the times. But I do think it's just so interesting. Like, I want to know more. Like, I feel like there should be, like, if there's like an autobiography or like a book about just wrestling, or it's like all the stories that go on behind the scenes, like good or bad. Like, it's just so enticing, isn't it?
Because there is like a lot of investigations that happens like under Vince McMahon's like
there's a lot, his ownership. Lawsuits.
Lawsuits, people sue him for like misconduct and like stuff like that. There was a lot of like sexual harassment stuff he got sued for.
It's not surprising really with the culture that is there, very male dominated, and the women were just there, as objects, so I think it's not to be expected, like, oh, it's just it's just part of the course, gotta
it's
get
like
with
another,
it. But you can guess that's
like another sign of the times kind of thing.
Absolutely. Like, you won't get that now.
But there's stuff like that, and then like towards the end of the show, like, which we knew like through the grapevine, was the whole TCT, whatever the CTE, the like brain brain condition from like them having so much like head trauma. Like, we knew inadvertently about that because of like a YouTube video we watched. We're like, oh, it's because they talked about that certain wrestler who it was a murder suicide thing with like him and his family. That was like, again, that because that's connected to the WWE, they had to like investigate it.
I just can't believe like how much culture is really behind it, and I think that's why you can look back on it and say, oh, this was a sign of the times there, because it just has such a cultural impact, and it was so influenced by culture at the time that it's all, it's so in tune with what's going on in the world and the way things are. Like, it's just
well, and it's like, it's an American, it's like the American pastime, isn't it? It's what they tried to, like, that's why Hulk Hogan was so big, as he was the American patriot.
American,
and like they do storylines connected to like the Middle East and like all these different countries. If like they were bad guys in like America's view, they would be the villains on the show. But then like stuff would get too close to home, they'd have to rework it, like with the sort of Iraq War and stuff like that. They had to dial that back. But it's just, again, how it shaped and like how it is still going on today is interesting, and it's amazing how it's also like the strongest it's been like in like the past 20 years like now it's back. But like, and just some of that crap that Vince McMahon did is just so,
I know,
because the whole
unhinged, really.
Well, they have this like message in the show of like, it does, wrestling is good when it blurs the line between what's real and what's fake.
Oh, God, what was the phrase that they kept using? Fadey.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh God, what was it? Where it's like where a crook that is telling a lie, but you don't. But you're like so wrapped up in the lie, like
the con artist. Oh, hello,
yeah, like a con artist. Like, you're just so wrapped up in the lie because of the storyline that you're in, and you know that there's a storyline behind it. So everybody knows that this is entertainment. This isn't just pure best of the best, in their button heads, whatever. You know that there's a storyline, but you don't know where that storyline starts and reality ends. And I think that's again, it's just so interesting.
Well, and it's like that with the whole Mr. McMahon character. Like, where does he start? And where does Vince McMahon begin, and where does Mr. McMahon end? Are they the same person? Like, he doesn't think they are, but like all his colleagues think, he's just an extension of Vince McMahon, the person. And like, just some of the like, he was like a sex fiend, like just hyped up guy, and then obviously later on it comes out that he had all these affairs. So it's kind of like that was clearly. And like the producers as well, like interviewing Vince McMahon was like, well, this happened to you when you were younger, so do you think this influenced your making the Mr. McMahon character? And he's like, no, No, I don't think so. But it's kind of like
Yeah.
there was definitely something
I
there.
think that he's like in a case now where when you tell yourself something enough times, you can like you can get yourself to believe anything really, like in your own mind. And I think that that's watching the interviews with him. He's told himself these storylines, or oh no, I never did anything bad, I never whatever. And he's told himself that so many times that he probably can't really, or he just doesn't believe that he did any of these bad things or anything like that. Like he's just wrapped up completely in it.
And there's like the whole thing of like when because like they had a competitor at the time, WCW, which Vince McMahon like eventually bought. Like WCW, and that was like a whole comparison of like WCW, like you hated them, but they were just doing exactly what you did when the WWE.
Yeah, you went out and poached everybody's talent from all the different territories.
But he didn't see it as like, oh yeah, no, I did do that. It's more like, no, I was doing that because it was healthy competition. These guys were doing it because they were bad.
They hated me.
So I bought and I won because I bought them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That was really cool, and like we laughed a couple of times just again from how like just.
It was
Absolutely
just at the storylines, I think.
It was the whole he's talking to his daughter, what's the one storyline you didn't want to do, and she's like, I prefer not to say. And then Vince McMahon's like, oh yeah, I said we were going to do a storyline where my daughter gets pregnant and maybe I'm the dad. And it's just like, you were like, how? Like, what would that have looked like?
And then it was when the whole Mr. McMahon character was kind of like dying out a little bit. The popularity wasn't there, so everybody was like, "Oh yeah, you can just like say that you're retiring, or like we can just make up something, or you can just get beaten up, or something like that." And he says, "No, I want everybody to think I'm dead." And he just like faked his own death, but people weren't sure whether it was real or not, and people were saying like, "But is he okay?" And then that's when the death, murder, suicide. What was his name?
I honestly, sorry,
it's
I can't
not
remember.
Chris Benoit, is it?
No. I don't know. I'm gonna put it like on screen now. So
I think it was Benoit. Anyway, that was the murder suicide happened while this storyline was going on. So they very quickly had to say, no, this was all fake. Like this was just a storyline. Like sorry about that. Mm-hmm. But something really like traumatic has actually happened in real life. And the time where one of the guys, he fell to his death, but it was blackout in the arena, so nobody saw him fall, but he fell like into the center of the ring and he died, but they just like kept going with the match again.
But everyone, all the wrestlers knew he died. The
wrestlers knew, but none of the audience did.
Yeah.
So again, it was all business, like business. And sometimes that's really good because you can't let personal affect business. And I feel like you hear a lot of stories about people in business and they say, oh God, I just had such a bad falling out with this person. I just really didn't want to, engage with them, but really I should have just sucked it up because it was bad for the business. Whereas you would never hear him saying that. He would always be like, I don't care, like it was good for business, so that's all I care about. So in some ways that's good, and then in some ways that's bad because you're not necessarily putting your employees
and he does
first.
He does come off as being cold like at certain points. So when he does talk about that, he's like, I just wanted to get on with the show that day, so like we just ignored it, and like it's all stuff. It is all stuff like that there is a dark side to Vince McMahon, which I thought was interesting, like when in like the final episode, because that's when they do tackle the actual like allegations and stuff like that. They bring on like one of his old like the direct executive directors of the company who worked with him like really closely, and he said he'd watched some of the episodes and he said, I really hated them, like what you guys are doing. But then like when he said, you're not really telling the human side, I still think they did. Like you still feel for like Vince McMahon's upbringing.
I think that there is the human side to it, and I think that's why it makes it just so annoying that it wasn't all an act. It wasn't just this was how he was on screen, but actually in person he was a lovely chap. Like how great would that be? But it wasn't all a facade. It was still him, but just with a little bit of exaggeration on screen. But it's still like who he was to his core. So again, I think that is just. I think it is just interesting in itself, even though it's very that sort of morbid curiosity of what's going on in people's heads and what he thinks of himself now and stuff like that. Like I think it's really interesting, but again I do think that it is, and I said this earlier.
Sorry, you can hear
with
the
dog.
You can hear
she's
the dog
trying to make her bed. I don't. What is she doing? even does this? Penny is tucking herself into the bed. What are you doing?
I'm sure too his mum and dad are going to love listening to this bit of the podcast.
And Delilah's gone over
We're
to
dog
see
sitting,
what's
so this is
happening.
this is a good little interlude.
Can you see what she's done? She's pulled the whole cushion out of it.
Oh, bless you. Hey, Penny.
Okay, let's carry on. Bless her.
Don't go wrestling over there.
Yeah, but what I was saying earlier, that, you know, again, it's a sign of the times in that, you know, he is a man in a position of power. He hasn't really been brought up to have any sort of respect for women. And in that sort of misogynistic culture that he was probably not born into, but in his, like, you know, teenage years, that's what he ended up sort of going into, because obviously his father was in the business. So there was probably already that sort of misogyny there, and it kind of just builds and builds, and he gets more and more power, but he still has that sort of underlying feeling. And I just think that is just, he's just a typical man from that age.
Yeah, I mean, they
from
could
that
have
time.
Yeah, it's almost like they could have done a more like in-depth documentary about like what shaped Vince McMahon. There are like references to like, his upbringing, like he had an abusive like stepfather, and his like I think his mum was abusive as well, and then his dad took him under his wing, like finally, like, you know, but he wasn't there for like his formative years. He like came in like loads of years afterwards to be like, yeah, come work for me. And then, you know, there was a strained relationship there clearly between him and his dad, because they disagreed about the business, and then like that comes on to like his own son, like Shane, like they have like a weird relationship. And there's a really interesting bit where that guy's talking about a conversation they had, because they would butt heads, and it's him basically saying, like, you know, there was a moment where Shane had this idea, Vince really didn't like it, and basically Vince said, well, if you want to go ahead with that idea, you're gonna have to kill me. Like, and you know, you better,
like, stab me right here. Like,
and it's just like, and it's like, you better be prepared to do it. Like, I would have been prepared to kill my dad if like he got in my way. And it's just like, whew, again, like that darker side coming out there. But it's also like, you know, clearly he just wasn't. It's just that they didn't have much fatherly love growing up, so he's just not really giving that to his son. But it's
I think
like,
people either, you know, if they are sort of reflecting their own parents, they either become their parents and they're like, well, my dad didn't show me any love, so I'm not showing you any love, and I turned out fine, you know, when really you didn't. Or you go, my parents didn't show me any love, so I'm going to smother my kids, you know, and I'm going to be really loving and really caring, and they're going to have anything that they want. And, you know, it can be difficult, can't it, in life?
So there's lots of different things. So yeah, because
a lot of different themes.
Yeah, because I mean, there was even that bit like in that penultimate episode where like him and Shane have that moment like where he's proud of him because they did like another WrestleMania. He came back after being away for so long, you know, because Shane left the company for a bit.
Yeah,
and like they're hugging, and like you can see him saying, "Oh, I'm proud of you, son," kind of thing. Like, you know, that was a very tender moment between the two, and then suddenly it's like, oh wait, no, he did, like, you know, Vince McMahon was allegedly done all this bad stuff.
Yeah, so frustrating.
So it's a roller coaster of emotions. But you know what? Yeah, honestly, like if we were to get the scale up for this is definitely. What would you even say for this? Because I'm teetering between it being like a masterpiece and a go watch it, because I really think it is.
Do you know what I want to say? I want to say it's a 9 out of 10.
So you'd go for a masterpiece then?
Yeah, I think it's a masterpiece of a documentary.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
As a documentary.
Two masterpieces, one after the other.
I really enjoyed this documentary. Yeah. Like, it's not very often that me and you sit through something, and it's 6 episodes. We started it on Friday.
Yeah, it's not like we binged it.
And it's Sunday.
But
we didn't binge it, but
could have
it's
easily
Friday to Sunday. We watched 6 episodes, an hour each. And it's very rare that we do that, you know. So
I think, probably unsurprisingly, I think the people who did Tiger King did this documentary, and that was one.
Really?
Yeah, so I think, you know, when we watched, that was another one, that was really good.
That was really good.
But yeah, no, I think it's got everything, this one. You know, it's got the family drama.
It does have everything.
Interesting behind the scenes look, and it's just got
business. It's got criminality.
Yeah.
It's got family. It's got everything.
It's a well-paced like storyline as well, because normally
it's all very well put together.
Yeah, normally where it's like a program, and it's like, oh, how did this person get started? What was their origin story? That I find that so boring.
His childhood was this, that, and the other, and you just like, this is boring, like skip. But it was kind of like you still learn a bit about that, but it's like interdispersed with other
I think
stuff.
Probably the way the wrestling world works actually really helped this, because it's like here's when he started off. This is this era of wrestling. This is this
Yeah,
era.
yeah.
The whole, Hulk Hogan, the
Aggression. Ruthless aggression.
Ruthless aggression, the attitude, like all this different stuff that really helped. Like you could see the progression of wrestling,
pacing.
and like Vince McMahon's like involvement. So yeah, I think honestly, go watch
What
this
an
on
incredible
Netflix.
story of the WWE and the people behind it. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I definitely recommend go and watch this and go play Astrobot. Do it at the same time, maybe.
To be fair, I think that you could if you had two televisions.
Yeah.
Televisions. Why am I saying televisions?
Television sets. Now get an iPad, remote play to the iPad, and then watch Mr. McMahon on the TV.
That sounds like something that you would do.
Yeah, I would. I definitely would.
You need
for the rewatch
a lot
of
going in at once, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I hardly looked at my phone during this, so that it clearly gripped me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the making of a good show, is when it grips you. Like a good piece of media, anytime is like when it grips you and you don't have to like look at your phone because we're so.
We're so terrible.
Yeah, because our attention spans are just dwindled clearly as we get older.
Sometimes I'll be looking at my phone and I'll be scrolling, but I won't actually be looking at anything. Because sometimes you'll say to me, "Oh, what's that video or something?" And I'll just immediately scroll past it because you've like reminded me that I was watching it. I wasn't even. It was just on my phone. And you were like, "What is that?" I'm just like, "Oh, I'm not even looking at it." It's just the act of scrolling that is like satisfying.
I get you.
It's probably like smoking, where they say it's not about like the actual smoking and like inhaling the smoke, it's getting the cigarette out, lighting the cigarette, holding it and going like that's the part that they like.
I'm sorry, when did we become a health podcast? we're here to talk about...
Well, it's not the health, it's the unhealthy things. All these unhealthy habits.
Yeah, that's not how we roll on the Cinematic Trinity podcast. We're here to talk about movies, games and TV shows, which is what we've done.
It.
We've nearly done the whole Trinity in this episode.
I know. What's the film that we've watched recently?
I don't know. Catch Me If You Can.
We did watch that.
We're not going into that.
Brilliant.
We're not going into that. We're stretched for time.
Masterpiece.
That was a masterpiece, yeah. But you know what? Next week, though, maybe we're back with another masterpiece. Who knows? Because we're going to be talking about Joker Folie à Deux.
I thought you were going to say Joker and the Thief.
Joker and the Thief Part 2.
Yeah.
Joker and the Lady Gaga Part 2. But yeah, we're here to talk about Joker 2. So I really hope it's good. I feel like we've capped off each episode saying, "Oh, we've got Joker 2 coming up. I hope that's good."
Yeah.
So, but no, I really do, and I can't wait to see it. So we will be here to give our thoughts on Joker Part 2. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching this double feature of a podcast, and go play these games, go watch these TV shows. But in the meantime, we'll see you in the next episode.